Nicholas can sit in the passenger seat. Neva, you can walk home. It will only take an hour, she joked. Internally, I was stunned and thought, so that's how it is. I looked over at Nicholas, who was sitting next to my mother-in-law. He was busy fiddling with his smartphone, not looking our way. Are you listening? My mother-in-law asked with a smirk, expecting an answer. I almost sighed. Then Nicholas said, "Let's get going soon. I'm tired and want to rest." Encouraged by his words, my mother-in-law, with a broad smile, got into the driver's seat. Pointing to a nearby house, I informed her, "Our house is just a 3-minute walk from here. We moved into a $1 million house." "What are you talking about?" My mother-in-law asked with a puzzled expression. With a smile, I replied, "Oh, my apologies. It's not your house. I'll go ahead then." As I started walking, I heard her calling me from behind, but I ignored her and headed to my house. Exactly 3 minutes later, she followed up and exclaimed in shock, "What is this?" "I am Neva Ross, a 26-year-old housewife. My family has been running a business for generations, and we've never had financial troubles." Being the long-awaited daughter, I was quite pampered. "Neva is really cute. I would do anything for you." My brother, who was 10 years older than me, always said. His love grew with age, and thanks to that, I managed to avoid becoming spoiled. "People say, Neva, you have a friendly vibe?" And I do have a fair number of friends. After graduating from college, I got a job at a local company. Honestly, I could live comfortably just on the allowance from my family. But I took the job to gain some social experience. That's where I met Nicholas, who became my husband. He was my mentor at work, and we quickly got along due to his friendly nature. Nedra, right? Ah, it's Neva. Easy to mix up, isn't it? Nicholas glanced at my employee badge and tilted his head, to which I replied just as I had during my university days. "Ha! That's interesting," he noted. Perhaps that was the catalyst, but suddenly we grew closer and started dating after he confessed his feelings. After a couple of years of dating, we got married. My parents and my brother were thrilled and celebrated our union. It was right after our wedding that this happened. My mother was always busy and hardly at home, which made me feel lonely. That's why I want you, Neva, to stay at home." Nicholas requested. So, I quit my job and became a full-time housewife. Now, I am enjoying peaceful and happy days. "What would you like for dinner tonight?" "Well, I feel like having fish today." Asking him for dinner requests as I see him out saves me the trouble of planning the menu, as he usually has an answer ready. Nicholas usually comes straight home, so all I need to do is prepare everything accordingly. He's kinda late. No way. However, sometimes Nicholas comes home late without contacting me. It happens when his mother invites him for a meal. "Nicholas? You're not home yet. What's going on?" "Oh, sorry about that. You see, my mom invited me over for dinner, so I'm at my parents' house right now." Nicholas replied without any remorse, his voice mixed with a sigh. He is generally a family-loving and kind person, but things get complicated when his mother is involved. Again with your mother. At least let me know. I already made dinner for you. Sorry, it was all so sudden. Oh? Mom wants to talk to you too. His words gave me a bad feeling. Right after that, I'm sorry, Mrs. Ross. A neighbor gave us some extra meat, and it's too much for just my husband and me to eat, so I invited him. I really apologize. His mother said with an apologetic tone. No, that's fine. I just wanted to be informed, that's all. While I responded that way, inside I thought, she doesn't really feel sorry at all. She dislikes me and intentionally invites Nicholas over suddenly. Mom was always focused on her career, so she kind of neglected me and doesn't really have many memories with me. Originally, his mother was not very interested in children, as Nicholas said. Yet, she invites him for dinner to harass the daughter-in-law from a wealthy family who wouldn't know hardship. I thought about inviting you too, but I figured it wouldn't suit the taste of such a lady. Her voice clearly contained laughter, as I sighed at this. What are you talking about? Echoed the voice of Nicholas's father. I apologize in my wife's place. When I asked about you, I was told you declined. There's no need for you to apologize, sir. Unlike his mother, Nicholas's father truly seemed apologetic. This happened every time. His mother would make snide remarks to me, and his father would apologize. Honestly, I'm tired of this exchange. But I said, the apology is really not necessary. Please tell Nicholas to take it easy, but not so much that it affects his work tomorrow. With that, I hung up the phone and sighed. At the beginning of our marriage, I did not think badly of my in-laws. During our wedding introduction, they said, "It's wonderful that such a lovely lady is becoming our daughter-in-law. Really, we're so happy to have such a cute girl as our daughter." They seemed kinder than what I had heard. However, the reality was different. A mother-in-law who harassed me and a father-in-law who tried to stop her with apologies alone. If only Nicholas would stop her. Despite their behavior, Nicholas enjoyed their attention. Apparently, he's happy to be cared for now, even if it's a bit late, after being neglected for so long. What a troublesome pair, I sighed again. Ah, Neva. You're still up. Yes, I am, after all, your wife. Nicholas returned home at midnight. Usually he would be back by 7 p.m., but tonight he came back really late. How relaxing it must have been at his parents' house. I'm really sorry, okay? Lately I feel like you've been getting angry easily. Not at all, I replied, feeling annoyed by his probing and quickly ending the conversation. As he said, I have been feeling emotionally unstable lately and was thinking about visiting a hospital soon. Ah, by the way, this is from my mom. Saying so, Nicholas handed me a paper bag. I knew what was inside without looking. Right, thanks. You took a bath at your parents' house, didn't you? Why don't you go to bed now? Yeah. I think I will. I watched as Nicholas quickly headed to the bedroom, then I glanced inside the paper bag. As expected, it contained food made from spoiled ingredients packed in a Tupperware. I silently threw it into the trash. This is also harassment, isn't it? Every time Nicholas visits his home, they give him this spoiled food as a souvenir. It's always something he dislikes, so he definitely won't eat it. Moreover, he hates even looking at it and hands it over without checking, so he doesn't know that the contents are spoiled. There's no point in telling him, he wouldn't believe it. Nicholas is naive in both the good and bad way. He wouldn't believe me if I told him his mother is harassing his wife. It must be a mistake, right? I'm sure my mom doesn't mean any harm. I once brought it up, and that's how he responded. Since then, I haven't talked to him about it. Instead, I have started venting to my brother. Being too nice can be a problem. That's right. He's a good person if only his parents weren't involved. Initially, he was furious and said, "I'll handle this," but after I told him not to, he just listened. He's well liked at work, too. Everyone respects him because he's genuinely a good person. Indeed, he is competent at his job and is known for his kind approach to teaching, which has earned him a good reputation. He truly is a good person if only his parents weren't involved. Even so, to change so much after getting married. Maybe I should look into it. Look into it. Neva, don't worry about it. Leave the rest to me. I nodded, though I was puzzled by my brother's words. My brother would never do anything that could harm me. That's why I have absolute trust in him. If only Nicholas could be as reliable. After ending the phone call, I murmured that and resumed my chores. Fortunately, my in-laws never visit our house without an appointment. Well, that also means I'm not called over to their house either. I really wish I could get along with my in-laws. Then, one day when we were maintaining this delicate distance, something happened. It's terrible. It's my dad. It seems my father-in-law was involved in a traffic accident and had passed away. As we rushed to the hospital, I found my mother-in-law already there. "Mom, how's Dad?" "He passed away before I got here." She said it calmly, without crying. In contrast, Nicholas was crying as he headed towards where his father was. Just as I was about to comfort him, I heard it. Finally, the nuisance is gone. I froze upon hearing my mother-in-law's murmur. What did she just say? Her husband had just died, and instead of mourning, she seemed almost glad. "Neva, please stay with Nicholas." "Yes, okay," I responded, nudged by my mother-in-law, and finally started to move. The days that followed were hectic. "Neva, please arrange the funeral," and then. My mother-in-law did nothing herself and kept directing me to do various things. I managed to handle it all with the help of my family. I wish she would do a bit herself. Mom is having a hard time too. Let's just give her space for now. Nicholas defended her. Despite my internal frustration with him, I somehow managed to send off my father-in-law. Not long after that, Nicholas said something unexpected. "I'm worried about Mom, so I think we should live together." What? Apparently his mother had told him over the phone that she felt lonely alone. Don't just decide this all of a sudden, without even consulting me. I'm worried about Mom. Please, Neva. I was already receiving harassment from her. Living together could only make things worse. Let's at least wait until after my doctor's appointment. Yeah, you mentioned you had an appointment. All right, we'll wait until then. Nicholas spoke as if he was conceding, with a hint of superiority. He had changed since his father's death. Perhaps spending long hours with his mother during the funeral arrangements had influenced him to start looking down on me. Continuing together might be impossible. I murmured, hand on my stomach. Then I contacted a certain person. 1 week later. As planned, I went to the hospital for my appointment and received the expected diagnosis before heading home. Ah, you finally came out. Outside the hospital, there was Nicholas, who seemed to have taken time off work, and, mother-in-law. Hello. She came to pick us up. It seems that upon hearing I was going to the hospital, my mother-in-law came to pick me up in her car. We're going straight to my parents' house now. Right now. Yes. From now on, we'll all live together. Oh, but... At that moment, my mother-in-law grinned mischievously. Nicholas can sit in the passenger seat. Neva, you can walk home. It will only take an hour, she said, laughing. Internally, I was dismayed and thought, so that's how it is. I looked at Nicholas, who was sitting next to my mother-in-law. He was fiddling with his smartphone, not looking this way. Are you listening? While grinning, my mother-in-law asked, and I nearly sighed. Then, Nicholas spoke up. Hey, let's get going. I'm tired and want to rest soon. At his words, my mother-in-law, with a broad smile, climbed into the driver's seat. To her, I pointed to a nearby house and informed her. Our house is just a 3-minute walk from here. We moved into a house worth $1 million. Huh? What are you talking about? At my words, my mother-in-law gave a puzzled look. In response, I smiled. Oops, my apologies. This isn't your house, is it? Well then, I'll go ahead. As I started walking, a voice called out from behind to stop me. Ignoring it, I continued towards my own home. Neva, my brother came too. My brother had come to meet me, and we started walking side by side. Our calm conversation, the first in a long while, gradually soothed my heart. And then, we're here. From today on, this is my home. Exactly 3 minutes later, we arrived at our house. While surprised by its size, I was thinking it was finally a place where I could settle down peacefully. What is this? My mother-in-law, who had followed me, let out a cry of astonishment and began to panic. Please stop making a scene, you're disturbing the neighbors. Quiet. What do you mean by this? As she continued to shout, I sighed and decided to explain. You know my family has been running a company for generations, right? I built this house using my savings from before I was married, with some help from my family's resources. Well, mostly it was Neva's own effort, though. My brother added to my explanation. I had been helping out at my family's company since my student days and had been saving my salary all that time. On top of that, I continued to add to my savings from my salary and allowances before marriage. Didn't you also include the salary from when we desperately needed help and you pitched in? Now, my brother has taken over running the family business. When the transition of the business happened, a veteran retired, which led to a temporary shortage of staff. During that time, I worked from home for a while and earned some money. That's when I started investing in stocks. Stocks, you say? It turns out I had a knack for it, and I was able to buy this house. I said this with a smile, and my mother-in-law looked frustrated. But why did you bother buying a house? If you had the means, you could have used that money to renovate my parents' home. I'm divorcing you, so there's no way I would live with your mother. I said this clearly to Nicholas, who looked puzzled. He stiffened and asked, What? Why are we getting a divorce? We aren't on bad terms and there's no infidelity. That's true. You haven't cheated and you haven't harmed me. But recently you've been influenced by your mother and started to neglect me, haven't you? Nicholas averted his eyes at my words, always so straightforward. That's why he's manipulated by his mother. Moreover, you don't protect me from your mother's harassment. No, it's not harassment. Mom doesn't mean any harm. If I had eaten the spoiled food she sent, both the baby and I might have ended up in heaven. At this, both Nicholas and his mother froze. What? A baby? You said before that I've become irritable, right? It turns out I was emotionally unstable because I'm pregnant. I said this while gently touching my stomach. In fact, right after my father-in-law passed away, I had a pregnancy test and found out about my pregnancy. Today, I visited the obstetrics department of a general hospital to get a definite diagnosis. I realized I was pregnant, and that's when I started taking action. Determined to protect my unborn child, I decided to sever ties with Nicholas, who failed to protect me, and his mother who harassed me. That's why I bought this house close to the hospital. I can't stay with those who are enemies to me and my unborn child. Saying this coldly, Nicholas looked at me, puzzled. If that's the case, it makes even more sense to live with Mom. This is pointless. Neva, you go inside first. Lisa is waiting for you there. Following my brother's words, I entered the house first. Neva. Ignoring Nicholas, I decided to rest. Welcome home, Neva. It must have been tough, right? I've prepared some tea that's safe to drink during pregnancy, so relax. Lisa, thank you. As I entered the house, Lisa, my brother's wife, and my friend, greeted me with a smile. When I decided to break away from Nicholas and his family, I had asked her to help move my belongings in. That's why she has the keys to this house. It's the least I can do. I met Thomas thanks to you, after all. It's my way of repaying you. Indeed, I was the reason the two met. Years ago, when I introduced them as close friends to my brother, they fell for each other at first sight. Despite the challenges they faced due to their 10-year age difference, they overcame them, strengthening their bond. I was so happy when you convinced our skeptical parents that they would be fine together. Of course. I know how much they love each other. That's why I decided it's my turn to protect you, Neva. Thank you. Having you here really makes me feel supported. Lisa will now be staying with me to provide support full-time. I hesitated at first, but eventually agreed after she insisted. Phew, finally got home. After a while, my brother Thomas came in, looking tired. From what he told me, Nicholas and his mom were persistently trying to get inside. I told them to stop going against the CEO, and they finally left. Actually, Nicholas works at the company where my brother Thomas is the CEO. So Thomas knows how Nicholas behaves at work. He didn't realize it was me until I spoke up. I find that concerning. Normally, you'd recognize your company's CEO at first glance, especially since Thomas became quite famous as a young CEO for a while. Maybe I should keep an eye on his actions a bit longer. It seems this suspicion had resonated with Thomas. There might be an investigation soon. If there's a problem, it's okay to fire him. But if there's nothing wrong, please don't let him go. Firing him is difficult to begin with, but why? Thomas looked puzzled, and I smiled. He needs to earn the child support money. At that, Thomas and the others seemed to understand. After a while, we decided to proceed with the divorce discussions with a lawyer involved. I thought I was doing the right thing. Nicholas claimed to the lawyer, but I paid him no attention. I have more important things to focus on. Hey, brother, you were going to investigate before our father-in-law passed away, right? Can you tell me the results? I was particularly concerned about what my mother-in-law had said when my father-in-law died. Yes, that's a good idea. It's best to be informed just in case. Then, my brother revealed a certain truth to me. So, that's why she called him a nuisance back then. Right after that, the house intercom rang. Lisa went to check and came back with a displeased look. He's here. By he, Lisa meant Nicholas. His mother wasn't with him, he had come alone. I asked her to let him in. Are you sure? Yes, I think I should make things clear once more. Nicholas, guided by Lisa, entered and was surprised to see my brother. Perhaps he thought he was going to meet me alone. What brings you here? We can't get divorced without discussing things. I thought we should talk. Nicholas said this, his eyes darting around nervously. Suddenly, his gaze landed on an investigation report. Oh, this? It's the investigation results about your mother. Why my mother's? That's when I told him about my brother's suspicions towards our in-laws and about my mother-in-law's statements. You're her son, so you should know these things. With that, I handed the investigation report to Nicholas. After reading the contents, his face turned pale, then quickly flushed red. "Sorry for barging in like this. I think I should go back." Ultimately, Nicholas left without resolving anything. Watching him leave, I couldn't help but laugh, anticipating the turmoil that was likely to follow. "Neva, you really didn't need to say all that, did you?" "It's fine. Even if I hadn't said it now, he's going to experience the truth for himself soon enough." "That's true." Watching us laugh together, my brother gave us a warm smile. I was truly glad to have these two on my side. "What have you done?" The day after Nicholas visited, his mother appeared at our house. This time I decided not to let her in. "You must have done something. It's impossible for Nicholas to yell at me like that." Apparently, after going home yesterday, Nicholas had severely confronted his mother. As expected, I smiled at this development. What I did? I simply showed him the truth. The truth. No way. Yes, about your affair. It turns out his mother had been having an affair for many years. She wanted to marry her lover, but my father-in-law wouldn't grant her a divorce. That's probably why she called him a nuisance. So, my father-in-law didn't stop your actions because he was disinterested in you, wasn't he? My father-in-law was aware of her infidelity. That's why he refused to divorce her, as a form of revenge. And since there was no love, he only apologized when her actions caused trouble, and generally did not try to stop her. Because of that, the harassment towards me never stopped. It was really troublesome. Quiet. You never had any hardships as a wife. And what hardships have you faced? Faced with my question, my mother-in-law began to ramble on. She regretted rushing her marriage decision, which prevented her from marrying the person she truly loved. This, she claimed, was why she couldn't truly love her son, Nicholas. Is that so? But the hardships you mentioned could have been avoided if you hadn't had an affair, right? That's. And you say you couldn't love your son properly, but why then do you suddenly care for him now, while ignoring his wife? She looked away under further questioning. The reason is simple. You just wanted to take your frustrations out on Nicholas and me, didn't you? Her shoulders twitched at this accusation. Indeed, her torment was intended not just for me but for Nicholas as well. She couldn't marry the one she loved, yet her unloved son had married someone he loved, who came from a wealthy family unlikely to face financial troubles. So you tried to destroy your son's family. How terrible. Well, it must be satisfying to have things turn out as you wished. That's right, everything was going well, until you interfered at the last minute. What interference? You're the one at fault here. A voice suddenly cut through the air, and my mother-in-law turned around in surprise to see Nicholas, his expression furious. I've had enough of your schemes, talking to your mother like that. Be thankful I'm not calling you worse. Nicholas, having spoken coldly, raised his hand towards the intercom camera. I'm sorry for the trouble at the very end. I will take her home properly, so please don't worry. Then he dragged away his screaming mother, almost as if pulling her along. Who would have thought Nicholas could become that furious? I had never seen him lose his temper like that before. Despite everything, Nicholas has a personality that doesn't easily allow him to express anger. People like him are really scary when they finally do get angry, I murmured, recalling Nicholas's expression. A few hours later, I received another message from him. I'm sorry about my family. I completely understand why you want to cut ties, so I agree to the divorce. Thus, we decided to proceed with the divorce amicably. Nicholas committed to paying child support and agreed to give me a larger share of our assets. He seemed disheartened by the whole situation and appeared to have given up completely on our relationship. I do feel sorry for him, but I must protect this child. The baby inside me continues to grow. For the child's safe future, I decided to distance myself from him. I don't have the luxury to sympathize with Nicholas. I need to be stronger. That's the spirit, but make sure not to overdo it, Lisa said with a smile. Of course, I replied. Later on, I heard that Nicholas had resigned from his job on his own. After a thorough investigation, it turned out he's quite susceptible to influence and kept changing his opinions, causing trouble for others. My brother explained. Nicholas had sided with his mother until he confronted the truth and switched sides almost instantly. Having witnessed such drastic changes, I easily accepted this explanation. When I told him that, he resigned, saying he had caused too much trouble for everyone, including his wife. Such behavior was typical of Nicholas. However, he still needs to pay child support. He needs to find a job soon. Don't worry about that. I've referred him to an exceptional workplace, my brother said, a splendid smile on his face. Seeing him smile reminded me of how much he adores me. The job I imagine he has referred Nicholas to will likely be challenging for him. Well, he'll just have to do his best. He has to fulfill his responsibilities as a parent. I murmured, rubbing my belly. After all, Nicholas doesn't have much of an escape. The house we once lived in was part of the property division, which I received and have already sold. As long as his mother is around, it's unlikely he'll return to his parents' home. I'll keep an eye on him until he pays the child support in full. My brother certainly won't let him slip away. Right now, it's about this child's happiness more than anyone else's. With that thought, I leisurely started to think about names for the baby soon to be born. Soon after, I heard that Nicholas had moved out of his mother's house. My life is a mess because of you, Mom. If you had never been around. Apparently, their last argument was so loud that it echoed throughout the neighborhood. And now, because of this incident, it's become well known in the neighborhood, and he feels quite awkward. My brother informed me, as he continued to investigate our former in-laws. My mother-in-law, who had been working at a local supermarket, resigned after the rumor spread to her workplace. She has no savings and now she's unemployed. It will be interesting to see how she manages, I mused. In fact, I had filed for damages against my mother-in-law for the harassment I suffered. I had been diligently gathering evidence, and the claim turned out to be substantial. It might have been better if there had been any savings or inheritance from my father-in-law left. However, she had squandered most of it on her lover. With only that amount left, she couldn't even pay the entire compensation. You suffered because of her. It's only fair that she experiences some hardship too. After reading the investigation report, Thomas muttered this with a smile. A few months later, I safely gave birth to my daughter, Faith. Did you let him know? I did. He sent back a congratulations. After resigning, Nicholas has been working hard at the job Thomas introduced him to. There are many tough seniors there, and he is being rigorously trained every day. Do you plan to let him meet Faith? I don't intend to. Nicholas had asked to meet her, but I firmly refused. I have no intention of forgiving him for not protecting us, nor do I plan to let him meet Faith in the future. That's right. He needs to properly make amends. Thomas agreed with my decision. As for the mother-in-law. She got arrested, you know. Arrested. After Nicholas left, she proudly headed to her lover's place. However, her lover rejected her. Moreover, he fled far away. Angered by that, she went on a rampage and was eventually caught. At those words, I was inwardly exasperated. I knew she was selfish, but I never expected her to go on a rampage. She really is foolish. Perhaps even in prison, my mother-in-law might still be blaming me for everything. Well, she'll never appear in front of you or Faith again, my brother said with a cold smile. Next to him, Lisa nodded in agreement. If you both say so, then everything must be okay now. I felt profoundly reassured by these two remarkably dependable people. And true to their word, once released, they took my former mother-in-law to a remote island. She was to live there alone. People who hurt others need to be isolated, my brother remarked. But we'll arrange for her to work, so she'll definitely pay the compensation, he added. At that, I thanked them with a smile, and they both nodded with broad grins. Several months later. Good morning, Faith. Life is busy with a newborn, but with the support of Lisa and others, I've managed without any major issues. It was right to cut ties, wasn't it? Since then, there has been no contact from Nicholas or his mother. That allows me to live in peace. I heard through the grapevine that they are both isolated. It's only natural for people to leave her after she's always acted so selfishly. Right after murmuring this, I heard my beloved daughter's voice. Faith is calling. I went to her with a smile. Thanks to my swift decision, I was able to meet this child safely. My decision was not wrong. If I had continued my married life with Nicholas, there was a real possibility of harm from his mother leading to a miscarriage. Confused by being pressed for a divorce, Nicholas must have been enraged upon learning the truth about his mother. If he had remained calm, he might have continued to say, "My mom would never do such a thing." And now I could have been spending my days crying. I'm so glad I have my brother and friends. With gratitude towards my brother and friends, I focused on raising